It's Eva. I'm here to bring you episode 2 of the Spring Scone series, where I'm going to be teaching you how to make banana nut scones that we're going to be pairing with our Santa-Gria fusion. Of course, I have to take a taste.
All these ingredients for it you probably have laying around home, especially some overly ripe bananas. This recipe only calls for 2 ripe bananas, so you can get these mashed up in a bowl, put them off to the side. Calls for 5 tablespoons of frozen grated butter, which I'm going to use a box grater for that, and we'll do that when the time comes. Calls for a 1/4 cup of sour cream, or you can use Greek yogurt, a cup of chopped walnuts, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, or if you're diabetic, you could substitute this brown sugar for coconut sugar, which has a lower glycemic index, which won't make your insulin spike. My mom's a diabetic, so I know all those secrets. And in this little dish, I have sugar, nutmeg, baking powder, and salt. So in a large bowl, we're going to combine our 2.5 cups of flour, our cinnamon, nutmeg, baking powder, and salt, and the brown sugar, so 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and 1 egg. Thank goodness for these little containers, because then I can just put that away.
We're going to give that a little whisk. Super simple.
I love cinnamon. I put closer to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. The recipe only calls for 1.5 teaspoons though. Feel free to adjust as necessary. So that's our dry ingredients. Push that off to the side.
In a medium-sized bowl, I'm going to add
Our mashed bananas and our vanilla, which I poured in the same bowl. Our sour cream, which is a 1/4 cup. I should have grabbed a spoon. Here we go. And a 1/4 cup of our sour cream. You make a little bit of a mess, that's okay. That's the fun of it, right? Okay. And so we're not dirtying a bunch of utensils. The whisk that I used for my dry ingredients, I'm going to use to mix up these wet ingredients.
So again, this is the mashed bananas and sour cream and vanilla, and I'm also going to add in here
The brown sugar, so 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and 1 egg. Thank goodness for these little containers, because then I can just put that away.
So, there's that. Looking good. Yummy. Okay, so we just mix that up. There's our wet ingredients. Super simple. On this same piece of wax paper that I just told you about that you can set your utensils on, of course, your counter should already be clean.
We're going to put our box grater on top.
We're going to grate 5 tablespoons of frozen butter.
Before I grate the butter, I'm going to score it at 5 tablespoons, which is right here. And then, holding on to this knob, which I'm going to be saving, I'm going to start grating. Okay, perfect. Cut it down to the knob. Save this. Wash your hands.
Just took our butter out of the freezer, so I'm going to add this into our dry ingredients.
I washed my hands before doing this, just so everybody knows. We do not want to spread any germs. You could also use a fork when doing this, or you could do this in a food processor, whatever you're most comfortable with. Then you're going to lightly toss the dry ingredients over the butter. And then using your fingers, you're going to rub the butter into the flour until it makes a little bit of a mealy consistency, and we're rubbing it. Just rubbing it in a little bit. You don't want to work it too much because the warmth from your hands is going to melt the butter. We want it to stay nice and cold. This is the consistency you're looking for. Nice and mealy. See what I'm talking about? You can see that chunk, the little chunks of butter in there. Perfect. Now we're gonna add our wet ingredients. But first, I'm gonna wash my hands. So now it's time to combine our wet and dry ingredients together. I'm gonna just dump these right in. We're gonna fold this in together. And then before you get everything to work together, I like to add my walnuts so they have time to get coated in flour so that they are spreaded out more evenly throughout our scone recipe. This recipe is really simple because there's no cutting or anything involved. All we're going to be doing is plopping these into a measuring cup and then plopping them onto the baking pan. Then they bake for 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees. So, mix this up until it just comes together. This dough is going to be very sticky. Don't worry about that. So that's what the dough looks like. Very, very sticky. It's almost time to stick our scones in the oven. Let's go over here and finish them up. This is how we're gonna finish these up. Taking your measuring cup and a spoon, you're gonna scoop a 1/4 cup of the mixture in. Simple, right? Then you just scoop that out right onto our pan. And then you repeat that 12 times. So, let's get to it. There's my first tray. Round 2. I'm going to brush them with some milk, and then I'm going to sprinkle some turbinado sugar on top. Check this out. I'm only using a couple tablespoons of 1% milk, and this is turbinado sugar. It looks like this. Some call it sugar in the raw, as I make a mess and dump it all over my counter. So, this is all you do. These scones are a little on the dense side. I'm going to do the toothpick test and double check to make sure they're cooked all the way through. And it comes out clean. See how there's a little bit of crumb stuck to it? That's perfect. That means they're nice and moist and not overcooked. So now the scones are all done and it's time to glaze them. You're going to want to make sure the maple glaze is warm so it spreads on them nice and easily. So I just use the same whisk I mixed it up with, and I just go over top, drizzle it on, and that's it. Definitely have dibs on this one. So everyone, there you have it, banana nut scones. What I love about this glaze recipe is that it has that hard, crunchy glaze that sticks to them really well. This one with all this extra delicious glaze on it has my name on it. So, you know when you get a banana muffin with the crumble on top and it has the walnuts in it? This is literally just missing like toasted oats. You could probably, after you glaze them, sprinkle toasted oats and crushed walnuts on top. That'd be so good. I didn't get that fancy. It reminds me of a banana, like banana bread or a banana muffin with that crunchy scone exterior on it. It is so good, and I can't wait to pair it with the Santa-Gria. Mmm. Mmm. So good. I was a little worried how the banana was gonna pair with Santa-Gria, but it's so good. The cinnamon in them really goes well with this. Mmm. That is a match made in heaven. Well, I really hope you give these a try. Join us in our Happy Rock Challenge. Look up hashtag Happy Rock Challenge on Instagram or Facebook to get more info on that one. And thank you for joining us on our second episode of the Spring Scone series, where I paired our Santa-Gria with banana nut scones.